When you think of, we talk about leadership right there and team dynamics. What qualities do you think about as you value most in your team members, right? Like I just went out and I tell you that this crazy, like, no shame, stand up and go do something kind of crazy. But
Yeah.
what qualities do you value most in your team at Axios VR, and how do you foster and collaborate that innovation in your team and your work
That's
environment?
a great question. So while I was going through this process of building the team, I was at a nonprofit. Great guys. I wish them the best. I hope they succeed in what they do. But the one thing I realized was leadership's take that accountability piece, and this goes back to my time in the military too, of just over accountability, right? Like if we're saying we're going to do something, we're going to do it, and a couple people don't, right? They're taking accountability for it and they're making up for it in other things. This team is such a weird, diverse one for me because I come from like the military background. I want the military environment and that to foster that environment where like I come from the world of when you fuck up, someone looks at you and goes, "Hey, you fuck," and we have that conversation, that rough conversation. What do we do to get better? And things are said that don't leave that conversation, right? You can call me an asshole, you can call me a fucker, like whatever you want. But when we leave that conversation, there's resolution and a path forward. It's not this, I'm going to take my ball and I'm going to go home. I'm done, right? Going into this team in this environment, we've had a couple of those moments where they're civilians, they're not military guys, but that culture exists where we've had the I think you're wrong, right? I'm a good idea fairy. I will admit I am cursed with the good idea. I will
Did you
I will
just say
have a
idea
moment.
fairy?
Oh yeah, the good idea fairy, that evil bitch in the military that normally you don't want to hear the second lieutenant having. I have that all the time. As a founder, kind of the vision of the company, I will call everybody up and be like, I got an idea. 9 times out of 10, I get told you're an idiot. We're not doing that. It will cost too much money and it just doesn't make sense. Or there's a smarter way to do it. And there's like a good 1 times out of 10 where they're like, that's a good idea. We should do it. My team, the leadership capability of not only have I been able to foster an environment where they're comfortable saying no, but they're comfortable explaining why and then giving their own idea in return. I don't think you can be innovative if your team's not creating. I don't think you can be the Steve Jobs of this is exactly what we're going to do. I'm the only one that can have the idea. I don't think that works in today's world anymore. It might have worked when it was new and you could get away with it and set a trend and then step back and it kind of takes its life as on. We're
Yeah.
creating something so disruptive in probably the most toxic environment. You come from the healthcare community. This selling in this world is hard. It's probably the hardest
It's
market that
hard.
exists. And in order to be successful at doing it, we had to create a team that was willing to take risks and a team that's willing to say no. And I think that's the thing I value the most is the power of no with my team. They're not scared to just say, no, that's wrong. And it's not just a with me thing. It's the guy brought on as the CEO. People aren't scared to tell him no. Like I don't want the tech bro community of yes men that are just following along whatever the C-suite saying. Everybody is willing to say their piece and not be scared of the reprisal that could come from it. That's the environment that I'm very proud of. It's the leadership position I think any of us should have of your guys should be able to tell you no. I think that's my number one thing without going off on a tangent.
Yeah. What's number two?
Honesty.
Say more.
So I was told by all of my friends that getting into tech, you're going to come across people, especially in the developer world, that are going to promise you the moon and under deliver, or they're going to say it'll take 3 months and it takes 9. The number one thing I say in all of my team meetings, I'm sure my team will admit to this, is I don't care what the answer is as long as it's true. I don't care if it's I don't know. I don't care. Just as long as we have that open honesty dialogue of treating everybody with the same level, everybody has the same information. We're not gonna. I'm not gonna go out and sell something I don't have. Right. I'm not gonna fuck
Mm-hmm.
up. They're not gonna fuck up. Honesty so that ability to power no and that ability of honesty really the same. They're kind of the same. I think it's a cheat saying both, but that level of honesty, especially in the sales world, especially in startup world, a lot of people they blur that line. And for us, I take great pride in that our company doesn't. If anything, we're a little bit too honest at times. We've told a couple people we can't work with them or we can't take on their project just because we don't have the capability, and it'd be a lie to say we do. Instead of saying yeah we can do it and then try to scale in 6 months to figure it out, like that's just not That's not our culture. It's not who we are. So honesty is number two.
I like that. Um, Leading different teams, leading different projects. I've actually experienced um, the other side of that, right? Like when people aren't transparent, they're not honest, and you get into um, you hit the goal line, you hit the timeline, you hit the due date, and it's like, where are we at, right?
Yep.
And it's like, oh well, and and they and the shrapnel that comes from that. And so the significance of don't care where you're at, just tell me the truth.
Yeah.
That's significantly important when leading a team. And I'm running a team right now on a really big project, and I just got to tell you, it's critical to have that like true transparency on where are we really at, what can we really do, and what are we really capable of. Because you can push all you want. Like I'm a driver,
Yeah.
and it's like I'm going to challenge you to do the unachievable, but where's your break? I'm going to help you find your breaking point,
Yep.
because there's a healthy conflict that exists, but you got to like be comfortable in that environment of finding that healthy breaking point. Um and you when you say uncle, I got to listen and say, okay, you did honestly say uncle. You can't just say uncle because you want to say uncle.
Yeah.
Like that's
I
that's the delicate balance, right?
Well, I think it's all about the tempo you set to, right? It's that leading by doing kind of tempo. Because I find if they're seeing me willing to do 19, 20 hours of work, that uncle, that giving up's not going to happen, right? If they see it's not just a them thing, if they see it's not just a, oh, I'm being held to a certain accountability or a certain standard, and that breaking point normally you can stretch out a bit too, just by being a good leader, just by doing the military, right? Leading by example. I'm not going to ask you to do anything I'm not willing to do myself kind of example. I feel like you can stretch that further, and they're more willing to do it because you're in the trenches with them. Vice versa, a lot of these tech companies I
Hmm.
meet with. I mean, I meet with some of the C-suite guys, and I'm like, oh, you're not my people. Go enjoy your golf game. I'm gonna go talk to your engineers or whoever's really getting shit done. I don't find
Hmm.
enjoyment in some of the people I've met so far, just because they don't have that in them. They're the normal executive board. Oh, excuse me,
Bless you.
people. I mean, it's just is what it is.
Yeah, I totally get it. Um, how do you balance that though? For like it's like, so you're in this startup mode and you got to accelerate, right? Like I view what you're doing right now is you're an F-16. So I worked on the F-16, so we're going to use F-16 as an
Okay.
analogy. You're at the end of the runway, right? You just got the all clear from the weapons loader. That's me. That's what I did on the F-16. We just armed your jet. You're at the end of the runway. You're turning into taxi. You taxi out to the end of the runway, and like you got the green light go, and you hit the throttle, and you're rolling. You're gaining momentum, and you're hitting the burner, and you're down the runway, and you're just starting to go right. And so
Yep.
that rapid innovation that your company's at right now, and you got fully funded. And so
Yeah.
with that fully funded comes rapid innovation and big expectations. Um, how do you balance that with don't care what the answer is, because now people care what the answer is,
Yeah.
because you got investors, and um, and I'm gonna still say no.
So I think we did it very well with our pre-planning, right? We did not set expectation high. We set very reasonable growth expectations for the next 3 years. We set very reasonable boundaries. We set our kind of our Goldilocks zones. Okay, we expand at these periods of time. When we hit these milestones, we are in our Goldilocks phase. It's time for expansion. I don't want to I'm a big studier, like study where everybody else failed, right? Like if somebody hit a critical failure part, why did they hit that part? And I want to avoid it. And so studying, especially tech startups, the number one failure of most tech companies in their startup phase, if you look at them, if you really look at them, they grow too quick with overhead. They start with something awesome, But instead of getting to a really good revenue stability point, they grow. They go from 20 employees to 150, or they go from 100 employees to 800. They take on way too much with the intention to grow faster and take up more of the market instead of just establishing that market security. Our positioning, because it's so unique, we protected it so well with the patent. I'm not too worried about we got to go out and take everything. I'm just worried about carving something. And then from that something, setting an example of standardization of our product has quality, right? And from a quality standpoint, we'll grow. And that'll be organic. It'll take time. But instead of just like let's throw money at the problem and try to make it go away. If I spend all of my money, I get an investment in overhead, I bring them in, but I don't get any revenue in 2 years. Year three, I fall apart. So it's more of just trusting, honestly, trusting my team and the deadlines they've set because we've had that honesty discussion. I know when they tell me something will happen, it will happen. Trusting that to project the next 3 years, and then trusting our investment partner saying, hey, you really want to get in bed with us? This is what the timeline looks like. Are you okay with that? And that's the culture we've built. I think that's the balance right now. And I am at the balance of I am a critical failure part for an investor, right? I'm dying. No one wants a CEO or C-suite guy that's going to die and the company falls apart. So I brought in the executive team that I'm trusting to do their jobs, and I'm just being the visionary kind of founder now. I'm separating myself from the processes so that if I in 3 months have to go in for emergency surgery, the bus doesn't stop. It keeps going. And I think that's that thing you learn in the military, that critical failure point. You learn one job up, two jobs down, right? Like that. Any point in time, anybody can step in and do a role. And from a leadership perspective in our company, for a balance point, everybody's doing that. And that's I think how we avoid the mistakes that have come with tech companies in before us, and will probably come after us. It's a hard thing to do on your own.
Dude, that is some serious wisdom right there. Right? Like um most people can't get out of their own way.
Yeah.
And kudos to you um for bringing that wisdom to this team, right? And it's because of an unfortunate circumstance, but kudos to you for having the wherewithal to be able to position them for success.
Thank you.
And that is serious leadership wisdom right there. When we think about um, where you guys are going, what you're trying to achieve, and the total mission, leadership I think is a skill that it's like sharpening a knife. You have it, but you have to continue to put it back on the stone and hone it, right? And
Yep.
that's what I love about um this platform is everybody that comes on it gets to help sharpen that knife and gets to tell a different story in the stories that we're curating. And as soon as it starts to click into that next growth, like it's like this, right? It's going to grow like this, and then it's going to plateau, and then it's going to take a step change. And then
Yep.
every time it takes a step change, there's going to be more and more people that are going to realize that, man, this is awesome. And there's going to be all these great leadership stories and these exciting events that people are going to be able to come and hear. But when you think about your personal insights and how you reflect on things, and like all of the vast experiences you had, right? I mean, look at the accelerated stories that you've had in life, right? Like, dude, we're both worldly people, right? Like, I mean,
Yep.
think of this versus the world population. We're I'm gonna say we're blessed at the worldly experiences we've had, even though it comes with some baggage, right?
I think we're blessed
Um,
even with our baggage, brother.
I think it. I you know what? I agree.
It's more perspective. I mean, it's a superpower in my mind.
I agree. You know what? That's a great way to state it. Um, what advice would you give young entrepreneurs who aspire to make a positive impact on the world? Right? Because at some point the idea here with this platform is to have people who are aspiring to do great things come and watch this, and then Leaders Lead is curation of links and resources of not only stories and a network of great people, but it's also a, a, a resource to go, where do I find the things that I need?
From an advice standpoint, is do not sacrifice your idea or mission for comfort.
Mm,
I think it's the first step. So coming up in the entrepreneur space, I saw a lot of people I looked to as like they're succeeding because they had a great house or they had a great car, they were taking great trips. You know, they were doing awesome dinners, wore great clothes, the add-ons you get with success, right? And there's a level of comfort that you attach to that. Of like when I hit that level, I'm good. I never want to get trapped in kind of that maze ever. I would rather reinvest in my company or reinvest in my team or reinvest in others to achieve my end state goal than to sacrifice for comfort level items at the beginning. And I see a lot of entrepreneurs when they first start this, you'll get a little bit of success. And that little bit of success will trick you into a level of comfort of you don't have to continue to feel uncomfortable and grow. And that's, if I could give any advice to anybody, is don't fall for that. It's a mind game. It's a trick. You know, if you're religious, it's the devil talking to you. You should always look at this as if it's going to be gone tomorrow until you're at a level where it's impossible. And if you really want to make your impact, you really want to change, you have to continue to grind. You know, you'll see guys start off, oh, high energy. I'm going to go do it. I've been at this road for almost a decade, and you know, this year companies fund it, right? That's a decade of my wife and I putting hundreds of thousands of dollars a year into this. I'm $2 million in on research. You can't lose your energy. You can't lose, and your energy has to come from your mission. If your mission's not real to you as a person, I don't care what it is. Your mission could be to get more wealth. If that's what your mission is, then you have
hmm
to stick to my missions to get more wealth. That's got to fund your energy because motivation's bullshit. Motivate, if you're just motivated, you're going to fail. You have to have your processes in place to where when motivation leaves you, you still execute. It's like when you hear a lot of people talk with like losing weight, going to the gym. You can be motivated. It's awesome. The day you lose your motivation, do you still go to the gym and rep out your workout? Do you still do it? Because if you don't, you're not going to get to where you want to be. It's the same thing with business, entrepreneurism. You're going to have days that just suck. You're going to get told no everywhere you go. And if you can't accept that and have a process in place that covers you and pushes you to keep going to the next step, you're going to fail. So that's my advice. Don't fall for the bullshit. Don't fall for comfort. Don't fall for, motivation. Don't fall for most of these videos you see on YouTube where they're like, here's a motivation clip, get motivated. That, if your mission is not authentic to you as a person, it's gonna fail. So
Yeah.
find what that really is. My motivation, thank God, aligns with what my company does, or I would have failed. But you got to find it. Your motivation comes from Zach. Yeah, I haven't known you for a long time, but getting to know you over the last few months, you come from a place where you want to make impact on people, and that's your mission, and you're willing to do it. That's huge because it seems to get you through it when things get rough. You just spent
hmm
way more in an airplane than I will ever want to do in my life. In the last month, we were talking on the phone. You told me, I was like, that's no, not something I'm willing to do, but you're willing to do it. I don't think it motivates you. You're willing to suffer through those horrible flights, but you're on mission. You're getting things done. So anybody out there, I don't care if your mission is you want to have a food truck that sells the best freaking dumplings in your state. You got to find your motivation to you, and
Yep.
you got to chase that. And once you chase it, continue to chase it until you get to a point where you can miss a month of work and it still rolls on its own. That's when you can start falling for comfort. I mean, that's your end state goal. It's where you should want to be.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. For me, you nailed it, dude. And I've never actually even told you this. For me, it's all about impact. It's about making impact for people, and the ultimate way to do that is paying shit forward. And that's my vision, is how do we create an impact for those around us? And God-given talents. I have the gift to gab, right?
You
I don't,
do.
I'm not blessed with financial resources. I'm not blessed with a whole bunch of other things, but I'm blessed with the gift of gab. So how do I get uh, guys like you that are doing great things that are in the community, um, and help lift you up and share your story so others can hear it and help inspire others while I help share your story. That's why I'm doing it. How can I help make an impact, so we can create this curation, this network of amazing stories by amazing people doing amazing things every day from a community that I love, that I'm proud to be a part of as a veteran, um, and lift people up and create this amazing ecosystem that can be a hub of resources. Ultimately, I'd love Leaders Lead to be such a cool platform that like people are like, man, can I come on and like create my own channel on Leaders Lead? Hell yes, let's do that.
That's
That's why
awesome, man.
it's leaders. That's why it's Leaders Lead by Zach Husted. And if it's Leaders Lead by you, Mr. Burrow, like, fuck, let's do it. Right? Like I don't know, like dream big, right? Like I don't like I started this whole thing this year. I lost my job early in January, and I was like in a like 2022 was the worst year of my life. Um January sucked, and I decided to go do something for someone else. And the feeling I got from that for helping one of my buddies, I recorded a conversation I had with him and I posted it on LinkedIn, and I felt fantastic about it. And the day after I lost my job, I posted this thing about how I went and made my bed. McGraven, excuse me, the go make your
Admiral.
bed thing.
Yeah.
Yep. And I started with like Leaders Lead was like the tagline, and that's how this all was born. And I'm like, screw it, like I don't know anything about a podcast. And then through that whole thing, that's how I met Sorelli, um,
Okay.
for reaching out through, and like he taught me a few things on how to do a podcast, and he and I have just stayed connected, and like he's been such a great friend and mentor to me through this whole thing. Like he doesn't owe me anything, but people are like, oh man, you'll never connect. Like no, dude, like he's been he's been like a normal dude to me, a normal bud. And you think all these things that are impossible, that people are like, oh, you'll never do that, you'll never do this, like watch me. Like i'm gonna d- I'm gonna do great things. I'm gonna create this great thing for people, and it's not about me, but I'm gonna create this ecosystem that is going to continue to give back to other people. And that's what this is about, because I want people to hear your story. I want people to hear from you why you're doing what you're doing, and I want them to understand, um, what makes you tick and why you're passionate about creating Axios VR. Like that's what makes me excited about this. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Well, I gotta say, Zach, when you find your mission, it's really your mission. It's true. Other people pick it up. That's why I knew what your mission was. I mean, you live it because this is truly what you want to do in life, and it comes off and it's authentic. I mean, I can't speak for Mike, but I can speak for myself. Like you were at the same event I was at. There are people there that want real connections. They want to really build bonds with other people, and there are people there of what can you give me, right? It's the give, give, give,
Yep.
or take, take, take. And you fell outside of that boundary. It drew me to you to have more conversations and have follow on talks. I mean, it's authentic. It's real. I see it. I see you doing your mission, and I know you're going to succeed, man. You're
Yep.
after it. You grind hard. I think your hardest
Thanks,
years
brother.
behind you, brother.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's what's really crazy is like I went to that event and it was the day, like I met you the day after, like I had the biggest faux pas ever. I went on Yahoo News the day before.
Yeah.
And I like they're like, "Oh, like I had this great amazing opportunity to talk about my coffee company that
Yep.
I created to raise money for veterans." And what I said on that interview is not what I had planned. Like, and after I had that interview, I went and I hid and I bawled. And like, and then I was so nervous about coming to that event. Like I just was like, I'm not going to go. Right. Because like I had this huge stigma. I had just told everyone that, like I created the company because I almost killed myself.
Yeah.
And um, it was such a blessing to meet you like right away that morning when I walked in. And it was like God had a plan.
Well, I'm honored I got to be a part to make you feel good, dude. Because good people are attracted to good people, brother. It's a gravitational force, especially in the veteran entrepreneur space. I'm proud of you for being vulnerable in the interview. Like it's veteran suicide is not an easy thing. I mean, suicide in general is not an easy thing to talk about. It's not easy to say I was so hurt and so empty that this was the only option in the moment that I thought of. And there's a I with my Purple Heart, call it my enemy marksmanship badge, right? I equate kind of the same thing. If it happens to us, it's not something we choose, right? You don't choose to be suicidal; it happens to you. You don't choose to be depressed; it happens to you. It's not a choice. There's this weird thing with like AA. I find when I work with addicts that have been through AA programs. I mean, AA was created back during Prohibition. It really hasn't changed. The book of AA hasn't changed in over almost 100 years. It is not a choice. It's not this sin thing of, oh, it's morality. You can choose this. It really comes down to a chemical function in the body, in the brain, our machine working with blood flow. And it happens to us. A lot of us, thank God, are able to do some of these modalities just naturally living life, right? They're naturally
Hmm.
occurring modalities. It's not something crazy. You don't need a pill. It's not something I can only make in the lab. Anybody can do this, but we find our ways through it. And those that we lose through that process didn't choose to leave their wife or their kids or family or whatever when they choose suicide. This is not a choice. It just happens to them. They're a victim of it. And I am proud of you for making it through that fight and beating that fight, because a lot of people don't, especially in our community. And so that I'm proud of you for doing that. And I'm honored that you share your story because I think more people need to do it. And man, it was great meeting you at that event. I mean, you came out of a weird shell that morning, and every time I saw you during the whole weekend, you were talking with everybody and living life. So I'm very happy to see that transition. Just from my experience with you, brother, you lead by example, right? Your leaders lead. That's this podcast, and you do it. You have the gift of the gab. When you work a room, dude, you really do it. You lead by that example. You set the tone, and it's awesome. And your story of getting people to sing happy birthday. It's just who Zach is. I'm sure everybody at home that knows you, your listeners that know you, that is Zach. And for those that don't know you, it's unfortunate you don't, but hopefully you stick around this community long enough to learn who this guy is. You're a great dude, and I'm honored to be here. And thank you for having me on your show, brother. I'm really,
Yeah,
really
man.
honored to be here.
Well, we're not done hanging. So
Perfect.
we'll continue to do this stuff. We'll have to figure out how to get together over the next little bit and get our families together and do something because I believe in doing great things. I decided officially to declare this right now to make it official. Um, I wasn't gonna do it because I felt like I got the wind knocked out of my sails, but I'm gonna do it. I wanted to put together a fundraising event, and the goal was to raise $500,000. And I'm like, all right. And I reached out to the LinkedIn network 2 months ago, and it led me. I wanted to get a hold of Zach Brown Band,
Okay.
and I did. Jason Van Camp helped me get through them, and I talked to the band and stuff, and I wanted them to come help me do it, and things just didn't work out. I felt defeated because it didn't work out. And then I decided, you know what? I'm going to do this. So end of September, early October, you're the first person I'm cordially inviting.
Awesome. I'm in.
I'm going to do a fundraiser event near Minneapolis. And the goal is to raise money. And if we can't do it fully the first year, well, it'll be the first year towards buying or building a home that is for disabled or homeless veterans, because there's no greater good that you can do for someone than giving them shelter. So I'm announcing it right now. We just decided um, that Kristen Krempel I'm officially declaring it. So get ready. If you don't know Christian, he produced the movie Act of Valor.
Okay.
Um, he told me when I got the wind knocked out of my sails on something, he's like, Next, what are you gonna do? Don't stop." So I'm
Yeah.
gonna put together this event, and I'm going to move forward and see how much money we can raise. And if it takes me a year or two to do it, we're going to do it. But the
Awesome.
whole intent is to raise funds to create in the community a home that is for disabled or homeless veterans. Um, and the goal was $500,000, and I believe we can do it.
Well, I believe you can do it too. I'm in. Shoot me the
All
details,
right,
brother.
yeah, and we're going to do it. We're gonna have a kick-ass event. This is the formal launch of it, and it's going to be amazing. So you're the first person to hear about it.
Well,
And
thank you.
the listeners will get to hear about it too. And we're going to raise a lot of good money. You you can come and you can talk about your company and what you're doing. I think it fits in great to share with this community of what you're doing here in Minneapolis area.
Yeah.
Of what you're doing, and we can even create an experiential pod for you at the event.
Oh wow, that'd be fun.
Yeah, and we'll do it. So that one of the largest VA centers in the nation is in Minneapolis. They're the one that
Okay.
anyway. That sent me the hate mail, but we'll figure that out.
Yeah.
Hey,
Sounds
brother,
great,
thank
Zach.
you.
Thank you so much
What
for having
else
me on.
can what else can we do to lift you up, brother? What can this community do to serve you, to help
Awareness.
you? Okay.
Awareness. For all your listeners out there, if you can go to axiosvr.com, that's AXIOSVR.com. Subscribe to our newsletter on there. We're going to have a handful of them coming out this next quarter for 2024. And also on social media on Instagram, Facebook, Axios VR. We're really big on Instagram, not really on Facebook or anything else. We'll be growing those channels here in the next few months now that our heads are up from development mode. And now we're out into the outreach mode. Just if you don't want to support the Kickstarter that's coming, you don't want to support any of that stuff, just like and share. Share the mission, share the stuff. Mental health is the only thing that touches every home in America, if not the world. This is a product that we started for veterans, but it's going to touch everybody's lives, from your kids to your siblings, your parents. I mean, it's going to benefit everybody, and it's only going to get better from here. So,
Yep.
I'm honored to share the space with you, Zach. Thank you for having me on, and for all your listeners out there, please follow, subscribe to this guy's podcast. It's awesome. It's a great platform for veterans like myself that are creating. And yeah, please go and follow our social medias and engage. That's the biggest thing I'd ask for is just community. Engage and help make an impact in this epidemic we're fighting.
Yeah, man. Hey, I'm blessed to know you, blessed to have you here, and you're doing great things. We're happy to support you, and again, back to Brendan's point, if you can't contribute financially and you're not into those things, the best thing that you can do is click forward on it, because spreading the word is equally as important as a monetary contribution in today's world. Is get it out there to someone else that maybe can and or will. So thank you so much, buddy. It's a pleasure, and really appreciate you having you here. Everybody, Zach Husted, Brendan Borrowman, Leaders Lead. Thank you so much.